phrase content envy for me we'll get into deeper, but what this presentation is really about, I do a lot of talks on creativity. I'm writing a book about creativity, on how people can be more creative as individuals, how businesses can be more creative, because it's extremely important in business today to have an army of people that are comfortable and have the permission to be creative inside your company. We know that as marketers. It's also just true in business in general. There's a great chart in Harvard Business Review this past issue that showed the trend of creative jobs in the US over like 150 years. In the last 50 years, it's doubled. The number of creative jobs has gone from 15% of the workforce to 30% of the workforce in the US. And not only has it doubled, but it's getting ready to you can see the trend chart, and it's getting ready to hockey stick. So, I mean, soon it's going to be half of the workforce in the country is a service-oriented job, tough word this morning, where creativity is an essential part of that role. And we know that as marketers in kind of an extreme case, because that's really what our job is to come up with creative ideas to sell products for our business or for our clients. So it relates back to content marketing, because in order to be creative, we really have to have time to spend on those problems, and time to find the right solutions, and time to find the great ideas. So I've been trying to find kind of sticking points where people get stuck and they don't really have the bandwidth or the resources to spend to really make a project or a campaign or a piece of content marketing really great. So today I'm going to give you a few tools to find that time and to be able to spend more time on some of these bigger ideas that we want to really get out there in a creative way. So these are some brands that I would label as content rich or content wealthy. And I love all of these companies, although I'm not allowed to eat some of the products. But you know, so Oreo and Dunkin' Donuts, they produce so much great content, and so often. You go to their Facebook and their Twitter, and they're just churning it out like crazy. HubSpot and Buffer are also doing that in different ways, mainly on blogs, and for different reasons. You know, Dunkin' Donuts, Oreo are consumer, HubSpot, Buffer are kind of tech companies, and these tech companies have made content marketing about a piece of their company from the beginning. HubSpot and Buffer both, and they produce brilliant blog posts, long-form blog posts on I think Buffer's twice a day, 3 times a day. HubSpot's, I don't know, maybe 30 times a day now. I don't know how many posts they put out. So we're seeing these in our feeds all the time. We see these companies that can produce tons of content at a very high level. And it really does create an envy situation where we feel like we need to strive to achieve that level. So that's one of the things I want to eliminate for you today. We also see charts like this. Don't even try to understand the chart. I'll give you the simple explanation, but it's telling you that you can post 6+ times to Facebook and still get a solid return out of each and every post, right? I don't know how many of you are posting 6+ times to Facebook per day. I know companies, so a couple hands, I know companies that are posting 12, 20 times to Facebook per day, which is insane. I don't want you to have to do that. This is the same chart for Twitter, 51 posts per day, and you can still get a large return on it. So not only are we supposed to do really great content, but we're supposed to post God knows how many times to all these social networks. This is just a few of the social networks that we're expected to be on. So not only is it a lot of content at a very high level, but we have to put it into a lot of places. I can make a business case for almost any business to be on most of these social networks. There's a lot of opportunity, right? You know, Instagram, Pinterest, Flickr. I don't know about Flickr, maybe. That might. Sorry, Marissa Meyer. But most of the other ones, right? So what happens is we create these pressures on ourselves, and we find ourselves putting posts up like this, which is very mediocre. I call this overwhelming mediocrity. I love Adele. Adele is also kind of a brand in her own right? She's what I would also call content rich. She's a singer, she's a performer, she's got videos and MP3s and everything. And she puts this major milestone of hers, 10 million albums in the US, and we're pleased to announce that Adele's album, 21, has reached, I would kill for like an exclamation point maybe, you know? But she could pull out an iPhone or an Android and done a video and sung to her fans or something like that. I mean, I'm sure this was her people, but this is just a tangible example of what I'm talking about overwhelming mediocrity. And it stems from us having this pressure, having this content envy pressure. So I love this phrase. I'm trying to sum up here the solution. Kind of the goal of the day is for you to be able to spend more time on a problem. The secret to being more creative is being willing to spend more time to come up with a solution than the next guy, right? But you're going to tell me, Jason, I don't have any time to spend more on these problems, right? So the goal of this presentation today is to give you that time back in some capacity. And I encourage you, I'm gonna challenge you today to try a couple new things. I challenge you to do this for 30 days and see what happens in your business. And I think you'll see greater results from the end product. We're gonna play a video here real quick. I think it's a great example of content from Jerry Seinfeld.
The Pop-Tart, by the way, was a moment in time when they invented, and I think Tom Brokaw tonight is going to be talking about the baby boom, and I am of that era. And when I was about 8, they invented the Pop-Tart. The back of my head blew right off. Right? Do you remember? Like, what? I was in the supermarket aisle with my mother, and I'm like, hold it, hold up, hold everything. The hell is that? Fruit-filled frosted rectangles in a box, the same. The food is in the shape of the box. What is this? You open the box, they're not even in there. They're in packets. Remember the packets? Lined with some kind of metallic alloy from NASA to protect them from gamma rays and Russian satellites might shoot at your brown sugar cinnamons. You had to protect the... And you open the packet. How many were in the packet? 2. Why 2? 1's not enough. 3 is too many. That's why.
So really good, right? One of my favorites. I think we'd all agree Jerry Seinfeld's definitely a creative genius. I think we would really be uncomfortable matching wits with him, in that era, in that arena. These are the actual notes from the Pop-Tart joke of him writing. So it took him 2 years to write that joke. He started it, came back to it, edited it, took out sections, added more sections. 2 years later, he was comfortable presenting that joke to an audience. So think about that for a minute, just that time that he spent on this one joke. For Seinfeld, I'm sure he had a lot of other things going on that year. It was the only thing he worked on. He had to sign royalty checks. He had to do Brunch with Kramer. But he came back to this one problem over and over because it wasn't perfect. It wasn't great yet, right? So think about that as an example the next time you're going to work on a project and you give yourself a day or a week or a month. Think about how long really great artists spend on great content. I think that's one of the things I'd love to stick in your head today, is giving yourself permission to spend more time on these projects. So I'm going to give you 5 steps today to fight back against content envy, and it's all going to boil down to focusing more time on fewer projects. That's the whole challenge I'm issuing to you today, is spend more time on fewer pieces of great content. So number 1, stole this from Oracle and Chris Moody, although we're going to have a little bit of back and forth suggestions today. He's going to give you his side of this equation, but they're both very valuable. We're talking about high intensity versus low intensity content. So the first step is to figure out what you're producing right now. What in your content marketing, social media marketing, blog, whatever you're doing, what's high intensity and what's low intensity? Your high intensity is going to be your long form content like Paula was talking about yesterday. It's going to be a podcast. For us, it's our conference. This is our high intensity content for the most part. It's going to be, a series of 10 infographics, a series of 10 slide shares. It could be a 50-page ebook, right? Your low intensity is going to be your Facebook post and your Twitter post. It's going to be user-generated content. It's going to be curated content. It's going to be automation. Automation is not a bad word as long as it's not everything you do, right? I'm a big proponent of that. It's going to be repurposing content. So the challenge is to, I love this photo. The challenge is to focus on the 80-20 rule. So 80-20 rule, finding an opportunity in your business where 20% of, how many people do not know the 80-20 rule? Right, almost no one, okay, good. So you want to spend 80% of your time, the challenge is 80% of your time on high intensity content and 20% of your time on low intensity content. So that's a big change for most people. How many of you think you're doing that right now? A couple people, okay. So this pairs well with the next rule to take the pressure off of yourself. Not everything has to be a home run. So if you're doing the 80-20 rule, and you're spending 20% of your time on the low intensity content, on the curation, on the user generated, on posting stuff from your high intensity content, on repurposing, on outsourcing your Instagram account to an influencer for half a year, maybe 30 days at a time, on hiring an agency to help you with different things, on repurposing content from an ebook, right? You really are freeing up time. So if it's 80-20, you're spending 1 out of 5 days on the low intensity content and 4 out of 5 days on a much bigger piece of content. The third recommendation I have is to borrow, steal, and repurpose. These are great suggestions for content marketing, but I don't think we take them as seriously as we should. One example I'll give is some Ecards. And this is a great quote, actually, before I get to that example. Books serve to show us that, show a man that those original thoughts of his aren't new after all. I think Lincoln is someone we all probably have great reverence for, great respect, very intelligent man, accomplished a lot in his life. And even he knew that really original ideas are almost non-existent. You know, you have a great idea, you read a book that was written 100 years ago that already had the idea, right? It's not a surprising thing to see something like that. And you don't have to have this original spark that no one has ever done. I like to use the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge that we all saw go viral as an example of this. It wasn't the first time people dumped stuff on their head on the internet. And it wasn't the first time that a charity asked people to challenge other people to donate money, right? But it was unique in its own way. It paired other old ideas together and was unique in its own way. It wasn't super original, but it worked. So don't feel like you have to be Jerry Seinfeld. Don't feel like you have to create something that's stellar and unique and has never been done. You can borrow, you can steal, you can repurpose. So this is one of my favorites. Some Ecards, grammar, the difference between knowing your shit and knowing you are shit. So some Ecards, very simple, right? It's a solid color background, a black and white illustration, and a very witty phrase. That's all it is. It's not trademarked. It's just simple concept. So we stole that for Social Fresh, and we did. You know, what would social marketers say? Good for you for trying to use a hyphen in that hashtag. You'll get them next time. This is probably the biggest low-intensity piece of content we've ever done, and we spent very little time on it. We partnered with an agency to get the Some Ecard. It was Ignite, social media agency out of North Carolina, to get the Some Ecard kind of direction. And then we have these blog posts from back in the day of what would social marketers say. We've done it like 3 times, and there are 50 bullets on each of them. So we just took some of those, found a piece of art on Shutterstock, and made these. Super easy, but a stolen idea, right? We didn't have an hour-long brainstorm to come up with this. Number 4, the vanilla ice rule. I just blogged about this. I want you, that 80% of your content focus on one big piece of thing. That's your one-hit wonder, right? Although Vanilla Ice, it was kind of accidental, I want you to have a purposeful one-hit wonder. Doesn't mean it's going to be the last piece of content you produce, but it's your focus, and you're going to repurpose it as much as you can. So we look at Social Fresh. Let's say our conference is our one-hit wonder. It's our big, high-intensity piece of content that we focus on. This is a 2 or 3 day event, 2.5 day event. We work very hard for 6 months to build out this event. We bring in amazingly smart presenters. We spend a lot of time making sure their presentations are practical and very actionable. And we spend time making sure we get a great hotel partner like Omni. We do a lot of great stuff to make this event special. But it'd be a shame if all the content and all the amazingness we create here just lives and breathes in this 2.5 days. So we repurpose that content after the event for 6 months. Some of it we repurpose for years because it's so great, right? And it's so timeless. We put them on YouTube. We put all the videos of the sessions on YouTube. We live stream. We take excerpts of those videos and put them on YouTube. We take interviews while we're here and put those on YouTube. We blog about all those interviews. We blog about every session. Eventually, we blog about every session and link back to those videos. We even have blog posts that are excerpts from all the sessions, and we do guest posts on other sites with excerpts and quotes from a lot of our presenters. So we're really getting mileage out of that big, high-intensity piece of content. Another example I'll give you, LinkedIn. Jason Miller is a speaker for us out in Orlando. LinkedIn services marketing, he has like a 2-man team there. You'd think LinkedIn has a lot of resources, they don't. And they've produced 2 ebooks since he's gotten there about 6 months ago. And those 2 ebooks have generated somewhere around 35,000 leads for them. And that's the majority of content they've created in 6 months, 2 50-page ebooks. And the most recent one just launched last week. They've spent about, I think he told me, about $20,000 putting those together, working with an agency to design them. They repurposed a lot of insights from experts in LinkedIn. They use their own kind of internal knowledge of LinkedIn, and they promote the heck out of it. Every partnership they do, they use those ebooks to promote. Every slide share opportunity they have to excerpt something from the ebook, every blog post they can excerpt something from the ebook. So their big one-hit wonder is this ebook, and then their 20% is repurposing that and pointing back to it and having tertiary conversations about it. And the important thing about your high-intensity content is, and your one-hit wonder is to make sure that it's strategic. Make sure it has a business value. If it's an ebook, it's email gated. You're looking for email leads. Maybe you're pointing people to a shopping cart page. Maybe you have an awareness goal to enter a new industry or sell a new product, and you need to get that out there. Have a business strategy planned for that specific one-hit wonder, and then focus all your effort on it. So that will give you a baseline. If you do that for 30 days, I feel very strongly that you will see improved results in your content marketing. It doesn't mean you have to stick to this forever. For some small businesses, you could go even more extreme and create one piece of content a year. If it's a big industry report that people know you for, and repurpose it and point to it for a while. If you're a massive company, maybe this is per employee or per department or per quarter, right? So you have to fit this strategy into your own business structure. But think about it as creating a baseline where you have more time to be more creative. My goal is to get you to get to a place where you have the permission, either inside your company or to yourself, to spend that time to really make great ideas. So once we have that comfort level, we can then strive to get more creative and get a really great idea out of our work. So going from good to great, investing the time it takes. I love the example of Weekend Update. It is the longest running skit on SNL. It's been there since the very beginning. I would argue it's probably the only thing that's funny on SNL today. That might be a little extreme, but it feels like that sometimes. They do about 12 to 15 jokes, kind of the news story jokes, not the skits, but 12 to 15 legit news jokes on the show each episode. In order to get to that, they write, on average, 800 to 1,000 jokes to get down and distill it to those ones that really win on the air. That's a lot of work. That's roughly a 50 to 1 ratio that they're doing. For every one joke they tell in the air, they've got 49 that they wrote that they're not telling. So when I speak about brainstorming, when I speak about ideation, I challenge people to do 50 to 1 ratio for if they're working on their own. If they're working in a team, I challenge you to do at least 100 to 1 ratio, because if you're doing as a team, you have more people that can come up with a lot of ideas, and there'll be some overlap. But the guiding principle here is to get all of the bad ideas out of your head, because the great ideas are in the back of your head. The bad ideas are right here. It's the stuff you first think of, and they fall into 2 categories. They fall into the category of obvious ideas, stuff that you think everybody is thinking, whether they are or not, and they fall into the category of absurd ideas, stuff that seems impossible or too expensive or just crazy. It would never work. And we typically never say, if you're in a brainstorm meeting, you're scared to say the obvious ideas because it'll make you sound silly, and you're scared to say the absurd ideas for the same reason. You might sound silly. But you really have to get them out there, because you can't get to the great ideas without them. Great ideas exist between the obvious and the absurd. Ideas are just connecting points, and if you are not getting the bad ideas out there that can help you connect more points, you're really missing opportunities. So I challenge you to do that. I challenge you, as kind of a closing thought, to really take a look at your content, spend more time on fewer projects, and I think you'll see great results. Thank you.